When the flood destroyed everything I owned, I showed up at my son's house with nothing but the clothes on my back. I thought surely my own child would help me. He looked at me through his expensive front door and said, "You're 67 years old. It's time you learned to handle your own problems." He didn't even let me inside. So I found a night cleaning job at a medical complex. The pay was terrible, but it was something. A truck driver started picking me up after my shifts, giving me rides home. Then one Thursday morning, his hands were shaking when I climbed into his truck. "We can't stop at your place today," he said quietly. "Trust me, just trust me." If this story resonates with you, I'd love to know where you're listening from. Comment your city. Let's build this community together. But let me start at the beginning, 3 months earlier, when the water came. The sound woke me just before dawn, not rain, but a rushing, angry noise that didn't belong in my small house on Oakwood Drive. I opened my eyes and swung my legs out of bed, expecting carpet under my feet. Instead, I felt cold. Shocking breath, stealing cold. Water, ankle deep and rising. My 67-year-old brain couldn't process it. The Cumberland River, 3 blocks away, had other ideas that June morning. Severe storm. Debbie had dumped 3 days of rain on Clarksville, Tennessee, and the river had finally said enough. I splashed to my feet, heart hammering. The smell hit me mud diesel fuel, something organic and wrong. Through my window, I could see my neighbor's porch, light reflecting off what looked like a lake where Oakwood Drive used to be. Emergency crews got me out safely, helped me grab what could be saved, a few photographs, the metal box with my important papers, some clothes. Everything else dissolved into muddy memory. The place had belonged to Patricia and me for 12 years. She'd loved that house, spent hours painting the kitchen yellow. She'd been gone 8 years now. Cancer took her quick and mean. I'd kept everything as she'd left it. Now it was all gone. 3 days later, I sat across from Karen Phillips in a cramped Red Cross office that smelled like instant coffee and stress. "I'm sorry, Mr. Morgan," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Flood damage isn't covered under your basic homeowner's policy. You'd have needed separate flood insurance." "But I've paid premiums for 12 years. "I understand, but the policy is clear. No insurance meant no money to rebuild. At 67, living off Social Security with $3,000 in savings, I couldn't start over alone. That evening, sitting on a cot in the Red Cross shelter with 30 other displaced souls, I did something I hadn't done in 5 years. I called my son. Jordan answered on the 3rd ring. Restaurant noise in the background. Expensive silverware, murmured conversation, laughter. The sounds of people whose houses weren't underwater. "Dad, is everything okay?" "I need help, son." The words stuck in my throat. "The house is gone. I'm at the Red Cross shelter. I was hoping maybe I could stay with you and Melissa for a few weeks." Silence stretched across the line. "Dad," his voice had changed, gone flat. "You know Melissa and I don't have space for house guests. We value our privacy." "I wouldn't be trouble. Just a place to sleep. I could pay rent as soon as I find work." "Dad, I'm going to be honest because that's what family does. You're 67 years old. Maybe it's time to think about whether you've made the right choices in life." "What do you mean?" "I mean, you're living paycheck to paycheck in a flood zone with no savings, no backup plan. That's not bad luck. That's poor planning." My hand gripped the phone tighter. "Jordan, I worked 37 years. I paid my bills. One natural disaster doesn't make me irresponsible. Doesn't it? You chose to coast through life. Those are choices. They have consequences. So you won't help me." "I'm helping you by being honest. What you need isn't a handout. You need to take responsibility and improve your life. I can't bail out every poor decision." I hung up without saying goodbye. That night, lying on a cot that smelled like bleach, listening to a stranger snoring 3 feet away, I realized my own son thought I deserved to lose everything. I just didn't know yet how much he'd already taken from me. The next morning, I stopped waiting for rescue. Dawn crept through the shelter windows. Around me, people stirred. I'd barely slept, Jordan's words echoing. At 7:30, I walked to the Tennessee Career Center. "Flood victim?" the woman asked. "Yes, ma'am." "Custodial position. Medical office, night shift, $900 a week." "I'll take it." The work was simple, mopping, emptying trash, sanitizing. By week's end, I'd found a studio. Tony Brennan showed it. $650 a month. 1 room above a dry cleaner. I'll take it. That first night, Patricia's photograph sat on the windowsill. I could almost hear her, You're going to be just fine. My first shift ended at 6. Walking out, I heard a voice. You the new night guy. An 18-wheeler sat nearby. Volunteer State Logistics on the side. A man leaned out 60 gray hair. That's me. Henry Cooper. I deliver here. Long walk after working all night. Hop in. The cab was homey coffee photo on dash country music. Where to? I gave my address. Flood get you, lost everything. Damn shame. Got family. I thought about Jordan. Not really. He told me about Betty. Dead 3 years from cancer. When he dropped me off, I reached for my wallet. Brother, if I charged everyone, I'd be the loneliest man alive. Next Thursday, he was there again. By week 4, I brought coffee. Then sandwiches. Could get used to this, he said. Least I can do. We talked about everything. His daughters in California, my carpentry years, Betty's crosswords, Patricia's kitchen. She sounds special. She was. Honor her by keeping going. One Thursday, Henry pointed to the photo on his dash. Betty at the Grand Canyon, wind in her hair. 20th anniversary. She'd never seen anything so big. Beautiful woman? Inside and out. Lost her fast. 6 months from diagnosis to gone. Patricia was the same. 8 years now. Gets different, not easier. You learn to carry it. Another morning, sipping coffee as sun painted Tennessee hills orange, Henry asked about my work. Carpentry. 37 years. Good work. Building things that last. Now I just clean up after doctors. Honest work's honest work. My dad drove truck, his dad, too. Nothing wrong with doing what needs doing. By late August, Thursday mornings had become ritual. Henry's truck waiting. Coffee in thermoses. Sandwiches in paper. 20 minutes talking, or not whatever felt right. You're good people, Richard. So are you. World needs more of us. Too many looking out for themselves. I thought about Jordan counting his silver. Then Henry worn jacket giving rides to strangers. The difference was stark. We'd sit sometimes not talking, just watching the sun come up over Clarksville. Those silences felt as comfortable as the conversations. Henry had lost Betty. I'd lost Patricia. We both understood what it meant to start over when you thought your life was set. You ever think about retiring? I asked one morning. Every day. But what would I do? Sit in an empty house, remembering. Fair point. The road keeps me going. And now I got Thursday mornings with a friend who makes decent sandwiches. I laughed. First real laugh in months. Henry became my measuring stick for humanity. If someone like him existed, someone who'd help a stranger without asking for anything back then, maybe the world wasn't as cold as Jordan made it seem. We never talked about deep things directly. No therapy sessions or heart-to-hearts. Just 2 old men who'd lost their wives doing what men do, showing up, sharing coffee, understanding without words. Over those 2 months as summer turned to early fall, Henry became the one constant in my upside-down life. Every Thursday, coffee and stories. Someone showing up. I had no idea our conversations would soon become a matter of life and death. The first sign something was wrong came on a Tuesday in September. I'd been applying for better jobs, day shift positions, warehouse work, sent out a dozen applications, heard nothing. That Tuesday I started calling Mr. Morgan. The HR woman at Morrison Manufacturing sounded uncomfortable. We received concerning information, reliability issues. Substance abuse was mentioned. Substance abuse, I don't drink. I'm sorry. 3 more calls. Same story. Someone had told them I was unreliable, had drinking problems, couldn't be trusted. The next morning, climbing into Henry's truck, I told him, someone's sabotaging me. Henry's jaw tightened. Who would do that? We both knew. You calling him? Tonight. That evening I dialed Jordan. Dad, what's up? Every job I applied to received calls saying I'm unreliable, that I drink. Silence. Restaurant noise. Did you call them? Yes, I did. The words hit hard. Why? I'm helping you. Enabling your poor decisions isn't love. I'm trying to work. You're looking for easy paths. You need consequences. Tough love, Dad. I hung up. 2 days later, Paul called. Jordan's worried. Says you've been drinking, making up stories. I'm not drinking. He showed me voicemails. You sounded bad. I never left voicemails. Losing everything at your age. Maybe you need help. I tried Aunt Linda. No answer. Over the next week, Jordan poisoned my family against me. Every relative either didn't answer or spoke with pity. When Linda finally picked up, until you get help for your drinking, we shouldn't talk. I'm not drinking. That's what people with problems say. She hung up. I stood alone, understanding what Jordan had done. He'd isolated me completely. Thursday morning, Henry asked, "Any luck?" They all believe him. "You got me. That counts." It did, but it didn't answer why. That night, lying awake, one thought burned. Why would Jordan do this? Refusing help was one thing, but actively destroying me, turning family against me. Nobody goes to this much trouble unless they're protecting something. I was being systematically destroyed by my own son. The question haunting me was simple. Why? Henry's hands were shaking when I climbed into the truck that Thursday morning in early October. Not the usual steady grip on the wheel, not the calm, weathered hands of a man who'd driven 18-wheelers for 40 years. These hands trembled against the steering wheel knuckles, white. "Henry, you okay?" He didn't pull out of the parking lot, just sat there, engine idling, staring straight ahead. Yesterday, when I was making my delivery, I saw something. The way he said it made my stomach drop. "What did you see?" Henry reached for his phone, fingers still unsteady. "Your son. He was here, in this parking lot, with 2 men. Jordan was here. Not just here, talking to 2 guys who looked like... Richard, they didn't look right. Dark jackets, the kind that hide things. Standing by a black sedan with tinted windows." He pulled up a photo on his cracked phone screen. Even from a distance, I recognized Jordan. Expensive suit, that confident posture. Next to him, 2 men in dark jackets. One was built like a linebacker, the other lean and hard-looking. "I didn't like the feel of it," Henry said, "so I moved my truck where I could watch without being seen, and I recorded them." "You recorded them on my phone. Audio's not great, but it's clear enough." He pressed play. At first, just ambient noise traffic birds, the distant hum of the medical building's air conditioning. Then voices. Jordan's voice, unmistakable. "Needs to happen soon. He's asking questions, poking around. If he starts digging into the past." Another voice, gravelly and professional. "What about timing?" "Jordan. He works nights. Walks from the building to wherever he's staying. Plenty of opportunities for something random. Mugging gone wrong. Old man in the wrong neighborhood." My blood turned to ice. The gravelly voice. "And the truck driver. He's become a complication." "Handle him too, if necessary," Jordan said, casual as ordering coffee. "Make it look like they were both in the wrong place at the wrong time. Nothing connects back to me." Henry stopped the recording. We sat in silence. The morning sun was coming up over Clarksville, painting everything gold and beautiful, and I'd just heard my son planning my death. "He wants to eliminate me," I said. The word felt strange in my mouth. "Yeah? And you? Because you've been helping me." Henry's jaw was tight. "Yeah. We need to go to the police." "With what, this recording?" Henry shook his head. "Richard, think about it. Your son's wealthy, connected, respected. You're a flood victim working night shifts. I'm just a truck driver. We walk into the police station with this. His lawyers will say he was discussing a movie plot, or joking around, or we edited the audio. But, we need more. We need to know why." Henry turned to face me fully. "Why would a son want to eliminate his own father? There's got to be a reason, something he's protecting, something he's scared you'll find out." The pieces started connecting in my head. The sabotage, the isolation. Jordan hadn't just been cruel, he'd been systematic. Keeping me weak, keeping me alone, keeping me from getting strong enough to ask questions. "What questions don't he want me asking?" I said half to myself. "That's what we need to find out. Because once we know the motive, once we know what he's hiding, then we have a real case. Then the police will listen." I thought about the recording. My son's voice calm and cold, discussing my death like a business transaction. "He's been planning this," I said, "the whole time. Since the flood, maybe before. Every move calculated." "Seems that way. What's he hiding, Henry? What could be worth killing for?" The words stuck in my throat. Henry started the truck, finally pulling out of the parking lot. "That's what we're going to find out. But we do it careful. We do it smart. Because now we know he's dangerous." We drove in silence toward my studio. The Thursday morning routine that had become such a comfort now felt fragile, precious. How many more of these did we have before Jordan made his move? "Thank you," I said, as Henry stopped outside my building, "for watching out, for telling me." That's what brothers do. My son wasn't just planning to eliminate me. He wanted to get rid of the only friend I had left too. And somewhere in his past, buried under years of lies and expensive suits, there was a secret worth destroying lives 4. The question was, could we find it before he found us? We didn't have to wait long. The very next night, Jordan made his move. Henry picked me up at 6 that Thursday evening, but we didn't head toward my apartment. Instead, we drove to Governor's Square and parked 3 houses down from Jordan's place, engine off, lights dark. The October air had turned cool, and I pulled my jacket tighter as we settled in to watch. "You sure about this?" Henry asked. "No," I admitted, "but we need to know why." At exactly 7:15, Jordan's garage door opened. He emerged carrying a leather briefcase, his movements quick and jerky. Even from a distance, I could see the tension in his shoulders. He glanced up and down the street twice before climbing into his Mercedes. "There's our boy," Henry murmured, starting the engine. "Let's see where he's running to." We followed at a careful distance as Jordan headed downtown. The evening traffic gave us cover, and Henry drove with the practiced ease of someone who'd logged 1,000,000 miles behind the wheel. Jordan pulled into a parking garage next to Henderson & Associates, a law firm I recognized from their billboards. "Lawyers," I said. "That can't be good." We waited in a nearby lot, watching the building's entrance. 45 minutes later, Jordan emerged holding a large manila envelope. But his face, even in the streetlight, I could see his expression had darkened. Whatever he'd hoped to accomplish in there, it hadn't worked. "Strike one," Henry noted. Next, Jordan drove to First Tennessee Bank, the main branch still open for evening business. He was inside less than 10 minutes. When he came out, the envelope was still in his hand, but his pace had quickened. His jaw was set tight. "Loan denial," I guessed. "He's desperate for money." "But why?" Henry asked. "Man lives in a $500,000 house." We followed Jordan east toward the industrial district. The streetlights grew sparser, the buildings more utilitarian. He turned into industrial self-storage, a sprawling facility surrounded by chain-link fencing. We killed our lights and coasted to a stop across the street. Jordan's car wound through the rows of orange storage units until it stopped at Unit 237. He got out, unlocked the heavy padlock, and rolled up the metal door. The interior was dark. I couldn't see what was inside from our position. He stepped in and disappeared. "Time it," I whispered. 5 minutes passed. 10. 15. The orange door stayed open, a rectangle of black in the dim facility lighting. What was he doing in there? Finally, after nearly 20 minutes, Jordan emerged. He pulled the door down and locked it, but he didn't immediately get into his car. Instead, he leaned against the driver's side door, both hands pressed to his face. His shoulders began to shake. I'd seen Jordan angry. I'd seen him cold. But I'd never seen him break. "Whatever's in that unit," Henry said quietly, "it's eating him alive." Jordan finally climbed into his Mercedes and drove away. Henry slipped out of our truck and jogged across the street. In less than a minute, he'd attached a small GPS tracker under Jordan's rear bumper. When he returned, his expression was grim. "We're coming back tonight," he said. "Whatever he's hiding in there, we need to see it." I stared at Unit 237, that ordinary orange metal door concealing God knows what. My son had visited lawyers, tried to secure money, and then spent 20 minutes alone with whatever secrets he kept in that storage unit. Secrets important enough to eliminate his own father over. "You think it's connected?" I asked. "To why he wants me gone?" "I'd bet my life on it," Henry said. The secret my son was hiding in that storage unit had the power to destroy him. But in just a few hours, we'd discover it had the power to destroy me, too. Breaking into the storage unit was easier than we'd imagined. We scaled the chain-link fence at the back of industrial self-storage just after midnight, when the facility's single security guard was making his rounds on the opposite side of the property. Henry had his lockpick set ready, and within 2 minutes, the padlock on Unit 237 clicked open. The metal door rolled up with a soft screech that made us both freeze, but no one came. Henry pulled the door down behind us and switched on a small flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing stacks of cardboard boxes and metal filing cabinets lining both walls. The air smelled of dust and old paper. "Start with the cabinets," I whispered. The first 2 drawers held business records, spreadsheets, tax returns, and corporation documents for Jordan's investment firm. But in the 3rd cabinet, Henry found a manila folder labeled in careful block letters, "Estate Files. Patricia Morgan deceased." My hand shook as I opened it. The first document was a bank statement from First Tennessee dated 8 years ago. Patricia's savings account, $400,000. Next came a life insurance policy from Guarantee Life, $600,000 beneficiary, listed as Richard Morgan and Jordan Morgan jointly. Then an appraisal of our house on Oakwood Drive, $900,000. Finally, an investment portfolio statement from Merrill Lynch. $200,000. I did the math twice, hoping I'd made a mistake. $2.1 million. Richard, Henry said quietly, holding up another document. Look at this. It was a notarized form titled Waiver of Inheritance Rights. The signature at the bottom was supposed to be mine. It looked like my handwriting. The slant, the loops. But I had never seen this document before in my life. Below it was an email printout. The subject line read, Funeral authorization. Please sign and return. Jordan had sent it to me the day after Patricia died, when I was flying back from caring for my dying mother overseas. The email claimed the attachment was just authorization to make funeral arrangements. It wasn't. It was a legal waiver surrendering all my inheritance rights to Patricia's estate. My son had tricked me into signing away everything my wife had left me. Deeper in the folder, I found an envelope with my name written in Patricia's careful cursive. Inside was a handwritten letter. My dearest Richard, I am leaving everything to you and Jordan equally. The house, the insurance, everything we built together. Jordan will take care of you, he always has. He's been such a good son from the very beginning. Love, always, Patricia. The words blurred. I saw myself in my workshop 20 years ago teaching 12-year-old Jordan how to sand a chair. His small hands gripping the sandpaper, his face serious with concentration. Am I doing this right, Dad? Perfect son. Someday you'll be better at this than me. My knees buckled. Henry caught my arm, steadied me. My wife trusted our son, I whispered, and he stole everything from both of us. The math was simple and brutal. Patricia died of cancer 8 years ago, but I'd lost Jordan to something far worse, greed. Henry photographed every document with his phone while I sat on a dusty box, Patricia's letter, still in my hands. When we finally left Unit 237, the eastern sky was beginning to lighten. Before dawn, I sent encrypted copies to a lawyer Patricia had once recommended. The subject line read, Only open if something happens to Richard Morgan. Tomorrow I would confront my son. Tonight I just needed to make it through alive. The meeting was set for 10 o'clock at Riverside Country Club. I arrived early, carrying a thick manila envelope. My hands were steady now. The shock from last night had crystallized into something harder. Henry waited in the parking lot, engine running, ready to intervene if things went south. Jordan arrived exactly on time, stepping into the private dining room in a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than I made in a month. His expression carried that familiar confidence, the look of a man who assumed his father had finally come crawling back for money. Dad, he said, taking a seat across from me, I'm glad you called. Maybe we can finally have a reasonable conversation about. Tell me about your mother's estate, Jordan. His smile faltered. What? Her estate. I've been thinking about it. There really wasn't anything left after the hospital bills and funeral. Jordan's jaw tightened. We've been through this. The medical costs were astronomical. The funeral, the debts. I slid the first bank statement across the table. Patricia's savings account, $400,000. The color drained from Jordan's face. How did you... Next came the life insurance policy, $600,000, then the house appraisal, $900,000. Finally, the investment portfolio, $200,000, $2.1 million, I said quietly. That's what your mother left us, together. Jordan stared at the documents, his confidence evaporating like morning fog. Dad, listen. I laid down the forged waiver of inheritance, then Patricia's handwritten letter. Her words about trusting him, about what a good son he'd always been. You sent me an email. I continued, my voice steady. The day after she died, you said it was just funeral authorization, but it wasn't, was it? Jordan's hands clenched on the table. When he finally spoke, his voice had changed. Defensive, almost desperate. You don't understand. You would have wasted it. I used that money to build something, Dad. A company. A future. What were you going to do? Buy a new pickup truck? Fix up that old house I invested in. I created value. It was worth more in my hands than it ever would have been in yours. Something in the corner of the room caught Jordan's eye. A wooden chair, simple oak construction, hand-sanded joints, fitted with the precision of real craftsmanship. I'd made it 30 years ago, one of a set I'd donated to the club. The same design Jordan and I had built together when he was 12. For just a moment, something flickered across his face. Guilt. Memory. But it wasn't enough. You were my son, I said, and my voice broke on that past tense. What turned you into this? It wasn't anger I felt anymore. It was grief, the kind of loss that carves through you and leaves something hollow behind. Jordan opened his mouth, closed it. No words came. I stood leaving the documents on the table between us. You have 48 hours, Jordan. Return everything, the full 2.1 million plus 8 years of interest. If you do that, I'll walk away. We'll never speak again, but I'll walk away. And if I don't, then I go to the FBI. This is theft, fraud, forgery across state lines, federal crimes. You'll lose everything anyway, the money, your company, your freedom. But if you do the right thing now, if you make this right, I paused looking at that wooden chair one last time. Maybe there's still a chance to save your soul. I walked out without looking back. 36 hours later, Jordan made his choice, and it wasn't the one I'd hoped for. The call came 36 hours later. You're making a mistake, Dad. Jordan's voice was cold-controlled. I have connections, resources. If you go to the FBI, you'll regret it. My hand didn't shake. It's too late, Jordan. Everything's already with my lawyer. And if anything happens to me or Henry, those files go straight to the bureau. I hung up. 2 hours later, Henry spotted 3 men watching our motel from a black SUV parked across the street. We didn't wait. We drove straight to the FBI field office in Nashville and walked in carrying copies of everything we'd found. The next 72 hours were a blur of interviews in windowless rooms. FBI agents photographed Henry's recordings, examined the forged documents, traced the email Jordan had sent me 8 years ago. On the 3rd day, they moved. Federal agents raided Jordan's house in Governor's Square at dawn, his investment office downtown, and Unit 237 at the storage facility. They seized filing cabinets, computers, bank records, everything. The evidence was overwhelming: forged signatures, fraudulent waivers, Patricia's letter, and 8 years of financial transactions that painted a clear picture of systematic theft. Jordan was arrested on a Tuesday morning in November, led out of his office in handcuffs while his clients watched. The local news ran the headline, "Investment Firm Owner Arrested for Defrauding Elderly Father." Melissa, his wife, appeared on the courthouse steps, looking devastated. She genuinely hadn't known. The trial lasted 5 months. Jordan's defense attorneys argued it was all a misunderstanding. They claimed the forged waiver was merely a clerical error, that I'd signed it willingly but misremembered, due to my age and grief. They tried to paint me as a confused old man seeking revenge against his successful son. But the evidence spoke louder than their arguments. Henry's recording of Jordan planning to eliminate us. The forged signature analyzed by 3 different experts, all confirming it wasn't mine. Patricia's handwritten letter expressing trust in Jordan. The timeline showing how he'd manipulated me via email the day after her funeral, when I was overseas and emotionally destroyed. The fact that Jordan had never once in 8 years told me about the $2.1 million. The jury didn't believe a word of his defense. 10 years in federal prison for fraud and conspiracy to cause serious harm to a family member. Full restitution ordered $3.1 million, including 8 years of compound interest and damages for emotional distress. When the verdict was read, I felt no triumph. Just an emptiness so profound it made my chest ache. They led Jordan out in handcuffs. At the courtroom door, he turned and looked at me, really looked at me, and for just a moment, I saw the boy who'd helped me sand that wooden chair 30 years ago. There was regret in his eyes, maybe even shame, but it was too late for apologies, too late for anything except consequences. I didn't turn away, but I didn't speak either. What was there left to say? Henry drove me home in silence. The restitution would take years to collect. They'd have to liquidate Jordan's company, his house, his investments. Eventually, I'd receive most of what Patricia had left me, maybe more. But money couldn't buy back what I'd truly lost: my son, and my faith that family meant anything at all. Still, as Henry pulled up to my apartment that evening, I realized something. The money couldn't return Jordan to me, but it could give me something else, something I hadn't had in 8 years. A choice, a new beginning, a chance to build the life Patricia would have wanted me to have. Tomorrow, I told Henry, let's start looking at land. 6 months after the trial ended, Henry and I stood on 50 acres of rolling Tennessee hills in Montgomery County. We built a main house for me and a smaller cabin for Henry, who'd retired from volunteer state logistics. A spring-fed pond, a woodworking shop, and enough land to finally breathe. Our days found their rhythm: mornings fishing, afternoons in the workshop, evenings around the campfire. The letter from Jordan arrived 2 years after his sentencing. His handwriting nearly made me throw it away, but I opened it. This time, no excuses. He wrote about Melissa's pressure, his failing investment firm, the desperate decisions that spiraled into planning my elimination. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Dad. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I destroyed. I sat with that letter for 3 days before responding. You didn't just steal money, Jordan. You destroyed the father who trusted you. You destroyed every good memory your mother had of you. I need time. Maybe someday, but not now. I left the door open a crack, but I couldn't walk through it. Paul and Linda came to apologize 6 months later, admitting they'd believed Jordan's lies without asking my side. I forgave them. Life's too short for grudges, but something had broken that couldn't be fully repaired. We stayed in touch, but the warmth had cooled to polite distance. My 70th birthday fell on a Saturday in late September. Henry insisted on a celebration. Neighbors from nearby farms, Paul and Linda Cake from town. We gathered around the fire pit as the sun painted the hills gold. Henry raised his glass. To new beginnings and to true family. To home, I replied. Later, after everyone left, Henry and I sat by the pond watching stars emerge. The night was cool: crickets singing in the grass. I lost Patricia 8 years ago, I said quietly. I lost Jordan 3 years ago, but I found something I didn't know I needed: a brother. Henry smiled. When Betty died, I thought I'd never have family again. Then I picked up a tired old carpenter at 6 in the morning and everything changed. The laughter faded into comfortable silence. A breeze rippled the pond, and an owl called from the trees. Family isn't about blood, Richard, Henry said finally. It's about who stands beside you when everything falls apart, who shows up, who stays. I looked at the cabin lights glowing warm against the darkness at the workshop we'd built together, at the land we now called home. Jordan's restitution money had bought all of this, but it was Henry's friendship that made it mean something. Yeah, I said, it's about who stays. We sat there until the fire burned down to embers, 2 old men who'd found family in the least likely place, not in blood or obligation, but in the simple, profound act of showing up. And finally, after everything, I was home. This is one of those grandpa stories that I never imagined I'd be telling, but it's a true story, every painful, surprising moment of it. Looking back now, I see how God worked, even through my darkest hours. When I had nothing, when my own son abandoned me in that Red Cross shelter, God sent a stranger in a delivery truck who became the brother I never knew I needed. That wasn't coincidence. That was grace. Don't be like me. Don't sign documents without reading them carefully, even when they come from family. Don't assume blood guarantees loyalty. I learned that lesson the hardest way possible. Don't wait until you've lost everything to see who truly cares about you. These are the kinds of grandpa stories we share so others won't repeat our mistakes. This true story taught me that family isn't defined by DNA or last names. It's defined by who shows up when your world collapses, who drives you home at 6 in the morning, who risks everything to help you find the truth. God doesn't always give us the family we're born into, but He always provides the family we need. I lost a son to greed, but I gained a brother through kindness. Through it all, God's hand was guiding me towards something I didn't even know I was looking for home. If sharing my true story helps even one person protect themselves, recognize real family when they find it, or understand that healing is possible after betrayal, then maybe this heartbreak had purpose. These grandpa stories matter. Your story matters. Thank God for second chances. Thank God for chosen family. Thank God for home.